Good morning, this is Wayne Bilal with another Smart Profit Maximizing Moment. Today we're going to talk about coronavirus. What else? All right. We're going to be talking about how to get help. All right. What is out there for the small business owner? I'm talking specifically for the small business owner today. We'll talk about the individuals tomorrow or the next day, whatever. Look, every business is either being affected right now or soon will be affected. I've been on the phone about the CARES Act, which was the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, okay, is what it was. It passed Friday. I have never had so many calls about something that literally the ink is not even dry yet. Okay, it passed late Friday. I started getting calls and emails and texts over the weekend, all day yesterday. And I spent a good amount of time yesterday talking to bankers, because they're the ones who are going to end up having to, they're the ones that are going to end up having to administer this mainly. Okay, so I'm going to go over the key points, and then we're going to talk about a couple things that I want to get on, all right? So first of all, call your banker. But, that's where I would start. There's a misconception that you can go to the SBA and they're handing out $10,000 in free money. Kind of. But like anything else with the government, not quite that easy, all right? So let's talk about, first of all, the loans that are out there, all right? There's $350 billion with a B that was set aside to help small businesses mainly keep their workers employed during the pandemic and the expected economic downturn. I'm guessing the longer we stay in this, now it's supposed to be till April 30th, so kiss April goodbye. We're looking at possibly, let me get rid of that. We're looking at, 2 to 3 quarters of downturn. I don't know. We'll see. All right. There's a part of this $350 million that's known as the Paycheck Protection Program. The initiative provides 100% federally guaranteed loans to small businesses. Now, an interesting point. Talked to the bankers. Both of them told me the same thing. The two that I talked to at length yesterday. It doesn't matter. Forget the forgiveness. You qualify even if your credit's bruised. There's no credit check on these, okay? But you should still approach it the way you should, as if you're getting an SBA loan, because you are, okay? These loans may be forgiven if borrowers maintain their payroll during the crisis or restore their payroll right after. So that's key. You don't have to keep them. You can restore it as soon as you're allowed to open. Like at restaurants and retail stores, they're not allowed to open right now. So timing of when to get these loans is critical, because you want to be able to restore them so you'll have a forgiveness. Another interesting thing, any part that is forgiven is tax-free, okay? The administration will release more details, okay, list of lenders offering loans. Pretty much anybody, start with your loan bank, because pretty much any bank that's part of the FDIC program will be able to do that. Credit unions, banks, anything. Here's some things that you should take into account. Are you eligible? All right, first of all, you have to have less than 500 employees. Easy for almost all my clients and 99% of all small businesses. Small business, the 501c3. So if you're a nonprofit, you can also qualify. An individual who operates as a sole proprietor. Now that means you're literally going to be able to borrow based on your wages as a sole proprietor. We don't know what that means yet. The rules haven't come out yet. When they do, that's sole proprietor, somebody who just works for them, is not an LLC, not taxed as an S corp or a corporation or a partnership, and really doesn't have to pay themselves a salary. So how it's going to pay you back, I don't know yet. Okay, nobody does. Those are going to be rules that are promulgated. It's also somebody who operates as an independent contractor, same problem. An individual who is self-employed regularly carries on any trade or business, so regularly counts. It really can't be a part-time gig. In addition, there's some rules that you need to be eligible. If you are accommodation and food service sector, the 500 employee rule is applied per physical location. So it's not like if you own 10 stores and each one has about 200, that would be 2,000 employees. You would think you wouldn't qualify, but under here you would, because each location is under 500. Remember, the 500 threshold counts for whether they're part-time, full-time, or really any other status. Now, what are the lenders going to be looking for? You're getting a loan, okay, that may or may not be forgiven. So the rules basically are the same, okay? In evaluating eligibility, lenders are directed to consider whether the borrower was in operation before February 15th of 2020. So it has to be somebody who was in business and had employees for whom they paid salaries and payroll taxes or paid independent contractors. So that paid independent contractors kind of tells me if you had independent contractors like trucking company and things like that, you may qualify. We're going to have to wait and see what the rules say. But based on what I'm seeing here, that's one of the areas I'm digging into, but it looks like it might work. Lenders will also ask you for a good faith certificate. Okay, understand, you're answering in good faith, which means you're, as best of your knowledge, you're not lying. Okay, I'm not an attorney, but that's basically what it means. Don't want to lie on these. Okay, these are bank loans backed up by the government, so you don't want to commit bank fraud. Okay. The lender will also ask you for a good faith certificate that the uncertainty of the current economic condition makes the loans request necessary to support ongoing operations. The borrower will use the loan proceeds to retain workers and maintain payroll to make mortgage, lease, and utility payments. Borrower does not have an application pending for a loan duplicative of the purpose and amounts applied for here, so you can't have a loan application already there. The borrower has not received a loan duplication between February 15th and December 31st, 2020. That duplicates the purpose, okay? Or there is an opportunity if you are an independent contractor, sole proprietor, or self-employed individual, lenders will also be looking for certain documents. Final requirements still need to be announced. Such as payroll filings, forms 1099, income and expenses from sole proprietors, things like that, all right? Key question, how much can you borrow? Well, you can borrow up to 2 times the borrower's average monthly payroll cost, not to exceed $10 million. So what is your payroll for an average month over the last 12 months is the way I understand it. Multiply that times 2.5, and that's the maximum you can borrow, okay? How do I add it? We're not going to get into that. Excluded payroll cost is the compensation of anybody making more than $100,000. You can't borrow on them. Payroll taxes and retirement taxes and income taxes are excluded. Any compensation for an employee whose principal place of residence is outside of the United States. So if you have a worker, we're on the border. If you have a worker who lives in Mexico, they don't count. Qualified sick leave, wages, that's a different rule. All right, let's talk about when the loan will be forgiven. Borrowers are eligible to have their loans forgiven, and how much depends on some things. And you're going to have good paperwork, all right? You're going to have to do a loan application. You're going to need the same things you always do. You're going to need the last 3 years tax returns. You're going to have either your 2019 return, and really it's March 31st, so you're going to need at least the first quarter's financial statements. So you're going to need to get your book straight to start with, because the other thing you're going to need to do to get the loan forgiven is you're going to have to prove every dollar that you took and you spent on the amount you're asking to be forgiven. A borrower is eligible for loan forgiveness equal to the amount the borrower spent on the following items during the 8-week period beginning with the date of the origination of the loan. Key, if you're not open yet, you don't really want to get the loan until let's say you're a restaurant, you're forced to close. Well, it doesn't do you much good to get the loan now, all right? You might want to get the $10,000 emergency loan. We'll talk about that in a minute, okay? Advance on the loan, which will help you pay rent maybe during this time period. Work with your landlord to buy a little bit of time until you can reopen. Get the loan application started, but don't get it originated. Don't sign all the documents until you're able to open, because then you can get repaid for that. If you get the loan now and you have no employees, you're not going to be able to get it forgiven, okay? 8-week period beginning on the date of the origination of the loan. Payroll cost, use the same definition above. Interest on the mortgage obligation, if you had interest. Rent on leasing agreement. Payments to utilities, which includes telephone and internet, okay? For borrowers with tipped employees, additional wages paid to these employees. The loan forgiveness cannot exceed the principal. So if I borrow $10,000, that's the most can be forgiven, obviously. I don't know why that has to be put in there. We're not going to get into a lot of things here. The key points is to make sure that you understand. Sorry, didn't mean to step off camera there. I did a Joe Biden almost. Let's talk this way for a while. Sorry. It's just poor guy. I feel for him. Technology's tough on somebody, and I'm younger than him, and I still struggle with it. So I feel his pain. Get him back on there. you need to keep good records. You're going to have good records before. Don't be afraid. I talked to quite a few business owners. I intend to call all my business owners in the next week or so, starting, probably today and tomorrow. I talked to some yesterday. I'm starting to make a list of who's going to be interested. But what I'm running into sometimes is, well, I'm not sure I'm going to need it. Well, let's be honest about it. As I dig deeper, right now they're doing fine. But like I talked to one person who has contracts in play, but is really worried once those contracts go out. I might want to get the loan process started and not trigger it until I get to that point. Okay. Small Business Emergency Relief Program locally. Okay. Not just, let me back up a second before I get to local help. Another thing I think is going to be a mistake is you're not going to have a plan. I think I'm going to put together, I'm really exploring, so keep an eye out here, putting together a simple webinar on how to put a plan together and even how I can help you with that. Because I think you're going to need to have, for some of this, you're going to need to have a 6-month recovery plan and a work capital plan that demonstrates the award will help them get through the uncertainty. That's in one of the help that is in El Paso. Okay, excuse me. But it's also what the banks would love to see. Now, they're going to make the loan because it's guaranteed, so there's no loss to them, to be frank about it. But their job, as much as anything, and the good banks, you're going to have some people that aren't that good, but the loan officers I'm talking about are interested in their customers and interested in keeping their customers alive after. It doesn't do any good to get a $100,000 loan or a $25,000 loan, go right through it, waste it, and then have to close your business in a year because you didn't fix some of the problems you had before, which we're going to have this recession. So you're going to have to get through this. All right. So let's talk about that. Let's make sure we know what's going on. I'm going to put together, I'm pretty sure I'm leaning heavily towards that, a webinar. Yeah, I'm still doing tax returns, so it might be not next week, it might be the week after, of how to put together a plan so that when you get these loans, even if you don't get the loan, but if you get there's no reason not to apply. So when you get the loan and the assistance, that it's used correctly to make you not only survive this time period, but thrive during it and after. That's a key point. You can take this opportunity and run with it, all right? Another thing too, there's something else that goes into this. You should do the loan application on the SBA site right now, all right? It's a simple 5 steps. Yeah, there's a lot of questions that are a little difficult, but you should know the answers and be able to get there. It has a section that says cost of goods sold for the 12 month, sales and cost of goods sold for the 12 months ended January 31st of 2020. Get with your CPA, your accountant, your bookkeeper, if nothing else, add up your receipts, make an estimate of your cost of goods sold. You're going to finalize those numbers anyways before you bring in the loan package, okay? But get them as close as you can. You don't want to lie, all right? Do your best estimate. And then in 4th section, I think, 4th, 5th, somewhere in there, there's a box about halfway down the page that says, I want a $10,000 advance. I'm requesting a $10,000 emergency advance on a loan. Click the box, all right? You'll get the $10,000 directly deposited into your account. They're saying by the end of the week. I don't believe it. It's the government, and a lot of people are going to be asking for help. But get yourself in line. Then let's sit down, get with a bank. That's what I would highly recommend because the SBA is backing it up. They're not really making direct loans. They're working with banks, okay? Get with your banker, see if they're up to speed on this. If they're not, get with somebody who does. Wells Fargo, I know, was doing a webinar, a meeting, whatever, with all their regional or national loan officers yesterday at 2 Mountain Time, okay? So they were bringing their people up to speed. Small local banks, if you can find somebody who specialized in SBA loans before in town, I'd like to use Ray Aguilar, Western Heritage, Bank of the West. I don't know anybody over there anymore, but I know they do a lot of small business loans. I like Ray, that's who I work with, all right? Get with them. They'll walk you through the process and make sure that you have what you need, okay? Get that $10,000 grant. I'm going to post on here the link on how to get there, so when I post this, I'll put the link up. Also, look at your local and state. A lot of the states are just, like Texas, when I went to it, appointed me to the SBA program, this CARES Act. But El Paso yesterday was one of the municipalities, and I know DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, has something in place, okay? So the city and county of El Paso approved $1 million in funding each to establish a small business emergency relief program to offer 0 interest loans and grants to struggling business. It will be managed by the Lift Fund, a nonprofit organization that helps finance new small business and startup companies. Businesses with 10 or fewer can apply for a loan of up to $25,000, and businesses with 5 employees or fewer can also apply for a grant up to $5,000. Lift Fund will start taking applications for this tomorrow, April 1st. The website is www.liftfund.com. I'm also going to put that in when I post the article. In order to qualify, the business must have been in operation since August of 2019, have good credit, this one the credit matters, and must prepare a 6-month recovery plan and a working capital plan that demonstrates the award will help them get through this time of uncertainty. So that's going to knock out a lot of people. That's why and I think you should have that. If you're going to take any money, truthfully, even if you're not going to take money, you should have a working plan to make sure that you get through this time period. Lift Fund will distribute $1.7 million in funds is what they're guessing they're going to have. And it's going to be on a first come, first go basis. So, that's how they're going to work it. So there's help out there. The key, I think, is get your application in now, get that $10,000 advance, make your application with Lift Fund, start call your banker, start putting together your plan, all right? What's your recovery plan, and what's your cash budget and that kind of thing is what's going to happen. And like I said, I think I'm going to put together a program for that. I'm leaning heavily that way, so I'll let you know. It'll be nothing. I can do a one-day webinar, and then I'll help people that need it after that. Hey, until next time, this is Wayne Bilal saying, even during this tough time, there's no excuse not to make this our best year ever. Thank you very much.